This conversation begins with the subject of this message, the will to win. The will to win still. Yes, the will to win still. As we get older, we become more reserved, if you will. We become more standoffish. We start retreating, if you will. We throw in the towel. We basically say, let the young kids have it. It's their time. It's their season. But you have all this knowledge and all this experience inside of you. You have so much to contribute still. So don't throw in the towel. A lot of you are retiring, and that's okay, but rewire as you're retiring. Yes, there are other things for you to be doing in this season of your life, but don't just quit. Vince Lombardi once said, winners never quit, and quitters never win. No one told you you could quit. It's one thing to retire. I'm all for that. It's one thing to relax. I'm all for that. You've earned that. But don't ever quit. You have so much to give to this world. How many of you know that we win in the end? How many of you realize that? I'm going to do something different with this message. I'm going to give you your omega before I give you your alpha. That's giving you your ending before I give you your beginning. Normally, I get all the way to the end before I give you this part of the message, but I want you to receive it now, because in the end, those of us who believe in Jesus Christ, those of us who have accepted him as our Lord and Savior, we win in the end. And so go with me to the book of Revelations, chapter 20, verse 1 through 15. And just stay with me for a moment, because too many of us are losing. Too many of us are quitting. And I want to share something with you before you get into this losing mindset, before you get into this quitting characteristic. I want to show you how we win in the end. But you've got to hold on. Yeah, with all your tenacity, with all your sagacity, you've got to hold on what God has for you. Go with me to the book of Revelations, chapter 20, verse 1 through 15. And it reads like this. Verse 1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. That's the deceiver. Yes, it's not your husband. It's not your wife. It's what's inside of them, the deceiver. That's who's doing it. It's Satan. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. It's not your son. It's not your daughter. It's Satan. It's what's inside of him. It's the evilness that's got inside. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. I want you to focus in life. What's really happening? Yes, we're moving so fast, we don't see what's really happening because we're moving so fast and we're taking things for granted. Verse 4, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Verse 5, but the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Verse 6, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Verse 8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Verse 9. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about. And the beloved city, the fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Verse 10. And the devil that deceived them, the devil deceived them, and the devil that deceived them, it's always the devil. It's never who's in front of you. It's always who's inside of them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophets are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. I told you we win in the end. The will to win. Verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. And there was found no place for them. Verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the book were open. And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. I pray that you're working. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. I pray that you're working. Verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Verse 15. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Go with me to Matthew chapter 3, verse 13 and verse 17. We win in the end. I just read to you how we win. We win in the end. Stop quitting. Yes. Hold on to your faith. Hold on to your belief. Stop quitting. Don't have a quitting spirit, a quitting characteristic. No. Have a winner's mentality. Let me show you how you get that. Matthew chapter 3, verse 13 and verse 17. I'm also going to go to Matthew 25, verse 14 and verse 21. Just stay with me real quick. Just going to skim through this. Verse 13 reads like this. Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John to be baptized of him. This is Jesus coming to John the Baptist, and John is baptizing, and John's going to baptize him. So John baptized him. Now skip down to verse 17. Verse 17. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Those are the words that you want to hear. Those are the words that we all want to hear. This is my beloved Son. This is my beloved son, Donnie, in whom I am well pleased. This is my beloved daughter, Sheila, in whom I am well pleased. Pin that right there. You just got to read that. If I were you, I would read this every single day. This is my beloved son, my beloved daughter, in whom I am well pleased. Is God well pleased with you? Are you well pleased with yourself? If you haven't quit, you should be. You see, quitters are not well pleased with themselves. I pray that you don't quit. I pray you get this. Go with me to Matthew 25, verse 14 and verse 21. This is the parable that Jesus is telling about this man who's traveling, and he gives his servants talents. He gives 1 5, 1 2, and 1 1. We know the story. We have the one who has 5 and the one who has 2. They go out and they invest, and they get a return on their talents. And then you have the one who does it, and so he doesn't get anything on his talent. This is the part I want to get, verse 21. Let's just go to verse 21. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Pin that. Go back up to verse 17 and pin that one in Matthew chapter 3. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Pin that, and then pin this one. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. I pray that you realize how important you are to the kingdom. You wouldn't be created if you weren't important. You were created for a purpose. I pray that you stick to it, you stay to it, and don't quit. In 1991, Stanley Kirk Burrell, you heard that name? Remember that name? In 1991, there's a guy by the name of Stanley Kirk Burrell, a.k.a. MC Hammer. Yeah, he penned the song Too Legitimate to Quit. Too legitimate to quit. Too legit to quit. He's saying that he is the heir apparent to the throne of rap music. He says, I'm too legit to quit. Bam. You know the song. I mean, come on. We are an original. We were created in the image of God and after his likeness. We are legally and lawfully too legit to quit. So God has decreed, you and I. Think about it for a moment. We know that Satan loses in the end. And we are quitting in life as if he's winning. No, he doesn't win. We know for a fact. I just read it to you. He loses in the end. So why are you quitting? Why are you following a loser? Come on the Lord's side. Who's on the Lord's side? That's what I'm asking you the question. Who's on the Lord's side? I mean, what are you really doing? What is your real problem or problems? I mean, what's really going on? If you go to the book of Revelation and just read the whole entire book, you realize we win in the end. I just read you chapter 20 just to let you know exactly who wins. I didn't want there to be any doubt about who wins. But we've got this word work ethic of being a loser, of being a quitter. And I want to wake you up this morning. Yeah, I want to shake you. I want to put some MC Hammer in you. Too legit to quit. Yeah, bam, bam, too legit. I pray that you know that you're too important to be quitting. Your work ethic. I mean, when I look at celebrities and I look at entertainers and I look at those in the field of athletics, they have this strong, sound work ethic. When I look at my father, my celebrities, my father, my mother, strong work ethic. I mean, always working, 24/7, never stopping. MC Hammer had a strong work ethic. Elvis Presley had a strong work ethic. James Brown, all that dancing had a strong work ethic. Now, we know all some of their shortcomings and their weakness, but do you know how dedicated they were to their art, to their craft? Janet Jackson, Beyonce, I mean, Bishop Jakes, when you look at it, Barack Obama. Do you know how disciplined you have to be one of the best in the world? You have to be so dedicated. But more importantly, you can't have a quitter's mentality. I was watching my granddaughter, my grandson playing this game on PlayStation. And my grandson, he had this look on his face. He wasn't happy. He just wasn't feeling good, seemed like. He seemed just a little bit lost. And so I asked him, I said, well, what's going on? He says, well, I can't beat her. And he was telling me that he couldn't beat my granddaughter in this particular game. And I said, well, Jaden, just keep trying. He says, no, I'm just going to quit. And I asked him the question, why are you quitting? He said, because Granddaddy, I can't beat her. I mean, no matter how hard I try, I can't beat her. I said, well, son, look at this. I told him that you might not beat her now, but if you quit, you will never beat her. You see, I told him, you're learning as you're playing this game. You're learning her strengths and her weaknesses, but you're also learning some things about you. But if you quit, you will never learn how to defeat her in this game. I said, maybe you set your goals too low. I said, so what is your goal? He says, well, my goal is to beat her. I said, well, hold up, Bob. Maybe your goal should be just a little bit higher. Maybe you should be trying to beat the game. Maybe that's just not enough to just beat her, because if you're going to quit, something's wrong with that analogy. Something's wrong with that equation. I said, because the more you play, the more skills you develop. Yeah, the more agility you have, the more flexibility you have. I said, so stay in the game. Don't quit the game. So I told my grandson that sometimes some of us have to lose in order to learn how to win. Now, he looked at me like you're looking at me. He looked at me like I had two heads on my shoulders. He said, well, what do you mean, Granddaddy? I said, well, for some of us, just think about it. If we win right away, we just won. But there's no sustaining power of winning over a long period of time. We just won, and that's it. We're just a one and done. I said, but for some of us, we have to take the long road. Yes, that road where you have to be disciplined, that road where you have to be focused, that road where you pay attention to the small things. You are really detailed oriented. You see, so when you come back to this stage again, guess what? You have now sustaining power. You have the will to win. And when you win, you keep winning. See, that's what legacies are made of. Legacy, a dynasty. They had a dynasty run. I mean, they won more than once. That's what you want in life. You want to have a dynasty in life. You want to be a winner who keeps on winning. Even though you might lose a game, you're still a winner. Yeah, you haven't lost the championship, but you lost the game. But do you realize what makes us quit? Is when we stop believing that we can win. He had stopped believing that he could win. He had kept playing her and he kept playing her and he couldn't beat her. So within himself, he had stopped believing that he can win. Yes, it's just that simple. The will to win can be defeated by the will to quit. That's how powerful quitting is. But let me ask you this before I go any further, because I think this is where we go wrong with our children, with our friends, with our employees. We never ask this question. We never seek out the answer to this question before we just dive right in. And so the question is, do you know how to win? Who taught you how to win? Let me show you what I mean. Back in 2003, the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted LeBron James. They called him the king, the chosen one. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers had never won an NBA championship. I mean, never. So that's like you drafted this young kid out of high school and you think he's going to take you to the promised land? Well, that's what they banked on. And so the whole fan base, the whole city, the whole state of Ohio was behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron never won in 7 years. In 7 years, he never won a championship. He got close, but no cigars. He didn't know how to get him over that threshold. Now, he was a winner. They won games to get to the finals, but guess what? They could never win the big one. And that's because he had never been taught how to win. And so LeBron James' contract, 7-year contract, was up. And he decided that he would become a free agent. And so he took his talents to Miami. Now there's a whole bunch of chaos that happened in between that because the fan base burnt his jersey. The owner put out a 4-page article in the newspaper mocking him and really denouncing him and putting him down. Now, it would be one thing if he didn't finish his contract. He finished his 7-year contract. So he was a free agent to do whatever he pleased. But the way he did it, though, by going on TV and said, I'm taking my talents to Miami, that hurt a lot of people's feelings. But guess what? They would have been hurt regardless because he left. He was the chosen one. Keep in mind, he was the chosen one as far as from their perspective. And so he left. He went to team up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, who had won a championship, Dwayne Wade, so he could learn how to win. It's important to learn how to win. It's important to not take it for granted that you just one day will wake up and win. Well, that doesn't really happen. There's a reputation, there's an attitude that comes with it. There's a demeanor that comes with winning. And when you've been a loser, they considered him a loser because he hadn't won a championship. So you've kind of forced him in some sense to go figure out how do I win. Now, you got to give it to him. They spent 4 years together in Miami. They won 2 NBA championships. He learned how to get over the hump. Like I said, he was always a winner, but he just couldn't get over the hump. So LeBron James finally got over what we call the hump. He finally learned how to close the deal. When it came to winning a championship, he had the stuff that you need to win a championship. He didn't have it before he got to Miami, but he learned from those who were before him. He was mentored by Dwayne Wade. He was mentored by Chris Bosh on how that, what we call sometimes killer instinct, that instinct to go beyond the threshold of pain and being tired. No, you got to push yourself through this. If you want to win, sometimes you have to push yourself more than anyone else will push themselves. So watch this. This is when you know you have the formula. This is when you know you can take winning anywhere. I mean, you can move from Dallas to Miami. You can move from Miami to Tennessee. When you have the winning formula, when you have the stuff that it takes to win, you can go anywhere because you've got it inside of you now. You've got this formula, what it takes to make it happen. In 2015, LeBron James took his talents back to Cleveland, back to his home state. Now, it shocked everybody that he would go back to where fans burned his jersey, to where the owner put out this full-page article in the newspaper. He's still there. But LeBron was on a mission. It wasn't about what they did. It's about what he wanted to do for his state. And that's powerful. Yeah, people will try to get in your way. People will try to be impediments, if you will, to what you have planned, to what's inside of you. And sometimes you just got to run right over. Sometimes you just got to close your ear to everyone else around you. You got to stay focused on what it is that you are really trying to achieve. He seen that it was bigger than what the fans were saying. He seen that it was bigger than what the owner had put in the newspaper. LeBron James wanted to bring a NBA championship home to Cleveland, Ohio. And so he came back to Cleveland, but he was up against a powerful opponent because the Golden State Warriors were in their prime. They had just set the all-time NBA winning season record of 73 wins in one season. They broke the Chicago Bulls' old record of 72 wins in a season. LeBron's team went into the finals against the Golden State Warriors. Just look at this. He moved from Miami, moved back to Cleveland. He's back into the championship game once again. And his team was down 3-1. Now, you know, that's odds. If you look at the odds, that's all against him. That's no way possible. You can check it. Everyone had put their name on the Golden State Warriors trophy, that it was going to be theirs. But then the formula kicked in. The will to win. Too legit to quit. He was too legit to quit. LeBron James took his team all the way from a deficit of 3-1, all the way to a 4-3 championship victory over the reigning champions. You see, the formula, the will to win, being too legit to quit. He brought back from Miami the will, the determination, if you will. He brought back a no quitters mentality. He brought it back to the organization. He brought it back to the players. He brought it back to the fans. He brought it back to the whole city. Really and truly, he brought it back to the whole country. He had brought back an attitude that he would not be defeated. He had the whole city believing that the impossible was probable and possible. That's what he did. One man did that against all the odds that were against him. He became the heart of a champion, the heart of a championship team. I pray that you know that's you and I. Corporations change their CEOs year after year and year after year, looking for someone who can bring a winning mentality to their structure, to their company. Someone who can help them make a profit. Someone who can bring in the right synergy to teach, to develop, to lead their entire organization by transfiguring them into a winning team, a winning mindset, a winning culture. That's what corporations do every single year. They're looking for that someone, that right someone. LeBron had to go out in order to come back. And sometimes you have to leave and go get more education in college, go get more training in another job. Sometimes you have to leave in order to come back to be successful. Sometimes you just have to, because the people that you're around can't teach you what you need to have. And more than likely, they don't see it, but you see it. Think about what if. What if Thomas Edison had quit on inventing the light bulb? Well, he'd be in the dark right now. Think about what if Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler had quit on inventing the automobile? We'd be walking right now. What if Willis Carrier would have quit on inventing the air conditioning system? Boy, we'd be some hot people. What if Abraham Lincoln would have quit on abolishing slavery? Wow. We'd still be in chains. You see how important it is not to quit? What if Jesus Christ would have quit in the Garden of Gethsemane and never gave up his life on the cross? Wow. We'd be doomed. You see, a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. It's okay to have losses along the way. We all do. But never quit. Yes, I told you, 3 points: winners, losers, and quitters. In order to win, sometimes you have to learn how to lose. But never give up on yourself. Losses don't mean that you're going to be a quitter. Losses mean that you just got a setback. So step back up to the plate and get back in the batter's box. But never quit on yourself. So as I'm closing, join me next week as we continue with this message about winning, losing, and quitting. I didn't even get a chance to touch up on it because I want you to stay focused on how we win in the end. The book of Revelation is a book sharing with us. It's the only book in the Bible that says it's a blessing to those who read it. It's the only book in the Bible that makes that statement. So go read the book of Revelation. Go read chapter 20 If you want to see what happens in the end where we win, please read the book of Revelation. But come back and join me as we dive deeper into this whole winning mentality, this whole losing mentality, and this whole quitting mentality. There's a spirit upon the earth that's causing people to quit. I want to talk about what you're quitting in and what you're quitting on. If you give your life to Jesus Christ, no matter how much hell you've caused on yourself and others over 40, 50 years, you're still saved. If you give your life to Jesus Christ, yeah, you're still a champion. You can still be saved. Isn't that powerful? Give your life to Jesus. Accept Romans 10:9. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you too shall be saved. Join me next week. Let's finish this message up. Winning, losing, and quitting. You're too legit to quit. Part 2 next week. Thank you, and be blessed.